Hello, I'm Congressman Dent. I'm proud to be the sponsor of the bipartisan Enemy Expatriation Act, which I introduced in the House this week, along with Representative Jason Altmire of Western Pennsylvania. Identical legislation was also introduced in the Senate by Senator Joe Lieberman, Chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, and Senator Scott Brown of Massachusetts. With the recent death of U.S.-born radical cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, the sanctity of American citizenship and its crucial role in our dialogue regarding national security is now garnering increased and bipartisan attention in both chambers of Congress. I'm hopeful this renewed attention will increase the awareness of and support for the Enemy Expatriation Act. The bipartisan legislation I introduced this week calls for a pragmatic recognition that a person who is purposefully and materially supporting acts of terror against the United States is demonstrating that they have no intent in acting as a U.S. citizen. If they want to engage in hostilities against the American people, then they clearly no longer wish to be a citizen of our great nation. Notably, this legislation would only modify an existing statute or law which has already been found constitutional by the United States Supreme Court. Currently, an individual who engages in hostilities against the United States on behalf of an armed force of a foreign state has committed an expatriating act. Our legislation clarifies that engaging in hostilities by supporting terrorism would also constitute an expatriating act. Decades ago, the greatest threat to our national security was posed by foreign states, including Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. Today, however, international terrorist networks like Al-Qaeda have equaled and in some cases exceeded the threat posed by any foreign state currently hostile to the United States. Simply put, this bill modernizes the process by which the citizenship status of an individual engaged in hostilities against the American people is examined by treating terrorists in the same manner as a U.S. citizen who marched through the Third Reich decades ago. I believe it is time Congress update existing law to reflect the modern threat of global terrorism. Let me be clear. The bill does not modify the prerequisite that a defendant must be found to have voluntarily relinquished his citizenship. I believe being an American citizen is more than a right. It is a responsibility. When individuals such as Anwar al-Awlaki take actions that are proven threats against the United States, they violate that responsibility, and our nation should respond in an appropriate manner. While we don't want fear to govern our daily lives, the failed terrorist attack in Times Square in May 2010, along with the attempted attack on Flight 253 on Christmas Day 2009, are grim reminders that we are fighting a war against terrorists aiming to dismantle American ideals and our way of life. We cannot and we will not allow them to triumph. I anticipate that the introduction of this bipartisan legislation will urge Congress to move quickly to amend our current law in a manner that reflects the global conflict that we face today.